What's up, guys, and welcome to another eBay miniature rescue. So I picked up this Doom-Flayer on eBay for $12 shipped. It has an alright base coat. It's still on a square base, so we got to change that out for a round. And we're going to do a little bit of repair work because there are some issues. So the biggest problem with this miniature is that the last owner used plastic glue that melts plastic together to weld it for a more permanent bond, but the feet were covered and completely destroyed. So I had to cut the feet off, and I'm going to use some Stormcast bits to kind of hide that area and just make it look a little bit different. So a little bit of bits here and there and just spruce it up a little bit. Starting with Vallejo Surface Primer Skeleton Bone, I'm going to go over the miniature pretty lightly just to give it a fresh start. Using burnt umber, I'm going to block in the fur and a little bit of the wood parts on the Doom-Flayer itself. Using dwarf skin, I'm going to transition between the fur onto all of the skin portions of the model. With bright bronze, I'm going to cover a majority of the metallics. Using Deathworld Forest, I base coat the robes. So all of my Skaven are done in this way, but you can pretty much change out the color of the base coats and then the two highlight colors to the next step in at least the Citadel range to get pretty much the same result, just layering and highlighting. Using Mournfang Brown, I go over any of the elongated fur that I'd want to reinforce with that brown color. It's a little bit lighter, so it differentiates it a little bit from some of the other fur. And I also take care of some of the wooden parts that I didn't want to do with the airbrush, like the middle of the Doom wheel, where the wood meets the metal. Using lead belcher, I base coat all of the weapons. I also use lead belcher to differentiate some of the colors in the middle of the Doom-Flayer. I just want to give a little bit more variety to some of those parts. Using moot green, I paint into some of the recessed areas on the model to give it some of that warp fire glow. Using Agrax Earthshade, I wash everything on the model except for the bronze parts. With Reikland Flesh Shade, I wash all the bronze to bring in that warmth and red tone. Using Cadian Flesh Tone, I layer all of the skin parts. Using Kislev Flesh, I highlight all of the Cadian Flesh Tone. With Strachan Green, I layer the robes, avoiding all of the recesses where the shade has settled. Interestingly enough, I find that when you use a larger brush to do layering, it really helps the process, and it makes it a little bit less frustrating, because I think that a lot of people start layering and they're using a small brush to get in with the details, And instead of getting the paint on there and really covering a majority of it and leaving those recesses, it ends up taking way too long and the paint starts drying out. So I do find that using a larger brush just helps with the process. You can get a lot more paint on, it flows nicer. You still have to do a couple of coats, but in the end it does end up looking better when you use a larger brush to do layering in this manner. With Nurgling Green, I do edge highlighting on the robes and I go over all of the brightest points. With P3's MENOTH white base, I take care of the teeth and the singular strap on his arm. With a dry brush of Necron Compound, I go over all of the metallics. With Scrag Brown, I layer over all the bags and straps to differentiate them from the fur. Coming in with Nihilakh Oxide, I start to weather the metallics. With Typhus Corrosion, I take the weathering one step further. With Rhinoxide, I fill in the base, use a light dry brush of an off-white, and paint the rim Scrag Brown. Alright, well thanks for joining me on another eBay rescue. I'd say that we took this model to another level with an updated paint scheme and a new base, so ready to play. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and I will see you in the next video.